Hello, and welcome to Democracies Around the World with a twist of fun. Because nothing says laugh riot like the complexities of global governance. We all know democracy is important. It's that thing we're told is the worst form of government, except for all the others. Which, honestly, is a pretty low bar. But before you switch over to watch paint dry, because, let's face it, that's a real nail-biter compared to most political discourse. We promise to make learning about democracies, dare we say it, enjoyable. First up, Switzerland, the land of stunning scenery, delicious chocolate, and clocks that work. Which, let's be honest, is already more than we can say for some democracies. In most countries, citizens vote for representatives who make decisions. But Switzerland's like, hold my fondue, we're doing this ourselves. They practice direct democracy, where citizens have a direct say in government decisions. Think of it as the world's largest and most well-organized town hall meeting, except with better snacks. And they vote on everything. New laws, referendum time, deciding what kind of cheese goes in the national fondue recipe? You guessed it, referendum. But hey, at least they seem happy about it. Okay, so how does this whole direct democracy thing actually work? Well, imagine your local homeowners association meeting, but instead of arguing over fence heights and noise complaints, you're debating national policy. Exciting, right? Swiss citizens can propose changes to the constitution or challenge existing laws through something called an initiative. If enough people sign a petition, the issue gets put to a national vote. It's like a petition website, but instead of just feeling vaguely good about yourself, you can actually change the law. And the Swiss take their civic duty seriously. They have referendums on everything from environmental policies to immigration to whether or not to buy new fighter jets. But hey, at least they're engaged, right? Next up, we're hopping across the pond to the good old US of A, home of the brave, land of the free, and inventors of the deep-fried butter stick. Don't pretend you're not impressed.
Jobs, families, binge-watching TV, the important stuff, so they opted for a representative democracy.
Citizens elect officials to represent their interests in government. Think of it like choosing someone to order takeout for you. You hope they'll pick something you like, but there's always a chance you'll end up with pineapple on your pizza. It's a gamble, people. The US system is about as straightforward as understanding a Christopher Nolan film after a bottle of wine. Two main parties, Democrats and Republicans, locked in a political tug-of-war. Every 4 years, Americans choose their president. It's a tough job, but it comes with a nice house and airplanes. They work with Congress, made up of the House and Senate. Alright, let's talk presidential democracies. These are like the Hollywood blockbusters of the democracy world. Big, bold, and with a leading person who everyone knows. We're looking at you, USA and Brazil. The president isn't just some figurehead. Oh no, they are the main event. Elected separately from the legislature, the president gets to play both king and kingmaker. They appoint their cabinet, set the agenda, and basically run the whole shebang. It's a tough job, sure, but someone's got to do it. Now, the beauty of a presidential system is also its potential downfall. You see, with great power comes, well, you know the rest. And when one person has so much influence, things can get a bit sticky. Think of it like this. The president is like a really enthusiastic dog walker with a whole pack of unruly dogs. Sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they pull in different directions, and sometimes they just chase squirrels up a tree. And let's not forget the ever-present risk of gridlock. When the president and the legislature can't agree on anything, the entire government grinds to a halt. But hey, at least they're never boring, right? Right then, let's pop over the pond, shall we? To the land of tea, crumpets, and a political system that's both fascinating and slightly baffling, the parliamentary democracy. In places like the UK and Canada, it's not the president who's calling the shots, it's the Prime Minister. And how do they get that gig, you ask? Instead, the Prime Minister is the leader of the party that wins the most seats in Parliament. It's like a giant game of musical chairs, except the music is actually just a bunch of politicians yelling at each other. And if you think the Prime Minister has it easy once they're in charge, think again. They have to answer to Parliament. which means facing off against a whole bunch of MPs who are more than happy to point out their every flaw and misstep. Now, let's not forget the real stars of the show in some of these parliamentary democracies, the monarchs. Yes, folks, in places like the UK and Canada, they still have a king or queen hanging around, waving at the crowds and generally being fabulous. But don't worry, they're not actually ruling the country or anything. They're more like the nation's grandparents. They offer words of wisdom, attend a lot of official events, and occasionally pop up on a commemorative coin.
Back to the actual running of the country, though. One of the quirks of a parliamentary system is that elections can happen at any time. That's right, there's no fixed schedule, no 4-year cycle. It's all very exciting, really. It's like living in a permanent state of political suspense. Will the government survive a vote of no confidence? Will the Prime Minister be forced to resign? Will someone finally remember to feed the corgis? Tune in next time to find out.
Alright, gather round everyone, because it's time to talk about the rule followers of the democracy world, constitutional democracies. These are the folks who believe that even freedom needs a few boundaries. Imagine democracy as a giant chaotic game of tag across a country. Fun, right? But without rules, things could get out of hand. That's where the Constitution comes in. It's the rule book for democracy, laying down the ground rules. These constitutions don't mess around. They cover everything from basic rights and freedoms to how the government is structured. Now, when it comes to constitutional democracies, Germany and Japan are like the poster children. They take their constitutions very seriously. Both countries have a history with not-so-democratic governments. After World War II, they created systems to prevent history from repeating. And it seems to be working out pretty well. Both are now thriving democracies with strong economies. Of course, there are still disagreements and debates. But hey, that's democracy, folks. Federalism. It's like splitting a bill evenly, even though they ordered the lobster and you had a salad. The national and state governments are constantly vying for a bigger slice of the power pie. Like a well-seasoned casserole, the key is balance. Entertaining? You bet.
The beauty of federalism is that it allows for some glorious regional quirks. Want to marry your cousin in Alabama? Knock yourself out. Fancy a spot of recreational cannabis in Colorado? Be my guest. But it can be incredibly inefficient. States' autonomy leads to disparities in education and healthcare. It's a system full of contradictions, but it works.
Alright, let's talk about liberal democracy, the system that's so fond of individual rights, it practically throws them a parade. Think of it as the cool aunt or uncle of political systems, the one who lets you stay up late and eat cake for breakfast. While all democracies give power to the people, liberal democracies emphasize individual liberties and limit government power. Take Canada, for example, the land of maple syrup and politeness. And then there's Australia, where you can enjoy a barbecue and respect individual freedoms at the same time. Now, before you think liberal democracies are all about letting people run wild, let's be clear. There are still rules. Even the coolest aunt or uncle has their limits. Liberal democracies have constitutions, laws, and institutions to protect rights and ensure order. Western Europe, for example, balances individual freedoms with stability. So there you have it. Liberal democracy, freewheeling, and rule-abiding. Hold on to your flat-pack furniture, folks, because we're diving into social democracy. This ain't your average democracy. It's the deluxe model with free healthcare, affordable education, and a social safety net.
But social democracy isn't about abolishing capitalism. It's about tempering capitalism with social responsibility.
Imagine a world where you don't worry about going bankrupt if you get sick, where your children get a quality education without drowning in debt.
Nowhere is that vision more realized than in Scandinavia.
Let's start with Sweden, the land of ABBA, IKEA, and a level of social trust that's almost unsettling. They take the idea of it takes a village to a whole new level. Free healthcare, free education, and a generous social safety net. It's like living in a giant cozy hug with excellent public transportation. Alright folks, let's end on a high note, shall we? We've waded through the muck of illiberal democracies. Now let's bask in the warm glow of something a bit more, well, democratic. I'm talking about participatory democracy, the everybody gets a say model. Imagine democracy as a delicious multi-layered cake. Most systems we've talked about, they're like politely taking a slice. Participatory democracy? That's diving headfirst into the whole cake, emerging with a sugar-fueled grin. It's about empowering individuals and communities to shape their destinies. Participatory democracy isn't just about local bake sales and neighborhood watch meetings. It's gone global. Thanks to the internet, people are connecting and mobilizing for change. Remember when TikTok teens punked a politician? That's participatory democracy in action. Participatory democracy isn't just about local bake sales and neighborhood watch meetings. It's gone global. Thanks to the internet, people are connecting and mobilizing for change. Remember when TikTok teens punked a politician? That's participatory. So there you have it, folks. Democracy, it's messy, it's complicated, and it's absolutely essential. From the direct democracy of the Swiss, where even the cows get a vote probably, to those participatory potlucks of people power, we've seen that democracy comes in all shapes and sizes, just like a bag of oddly shaped democracy-themed gummy bears. It's all, ultimately, about the people. It's about having a voice. Even if that voice occasionally gets drowned out by misinformation, it's about striving towards a world where everyone, regardless of background, belief, or bagel preference, has a chance to shape their own destiny. If you enjoyed this whirlwind tour of democracy, hit that like button harder than a politician backpedaling on a campaign promise. And don't forget to subscribe for more fun and informative content from around the world. Democracy and laughs await.